Welcome to the OK Let's Learn podcast. This is two podcasts in one. One where we dive into tons of interesting stories and books, and another where we dive into tons of interesting topics. My name is Kevin O'Keefe. So today, let's learn all about the top 20 moments in July. Recorded here on July 4th. 2026, the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America. We are celebrating the top moments in the history of July, in the history of the world. And guess what? I shouldn't do this, but I think you know what's going to be number one. This is an evergreen podcast, but no doubt you need to know that this is sent out to the world on this momentous occasion, July 4th, 2026. Hey, when you think of July, at least here in the United States, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about summer. You're thinking about hot, humid days. You're thinking about being out by the beach. You're thinking about being out by the pool. It is summertime, and you also have, especially if you're a sports fan, you've got Wimbledon in tennis. You've got every 4 years the Summer Olympics. You've got in baseball the All-Star Game. You've got in cycling the Tour de France. Football, NFL football training camps are opening, and certainly you also have all those blockbuster films that traditionally come out in the 4th of July weekend, all through the summer, going to the theater, going to the drive-in movies. Hey, if I have to pick the most favorite season of the year, I'm landing on the summertime. No question. It is that relaxing time of year. Hopefully you can take some vacations and not have to always work. I'm a teacher, so yeah, I'm still working over the summer. And actually, yes, I'm actually unemployed. But the bottom line is it's that time to sit back, hopefully get a good book, read it on the beach, and just enjoy the beautiful weather. So let's get started on the countdown. And yes, you will have disagreements. Yes, I will forget certain things. Yes, no question, this is my opinion, based on everything that I can research about the moments in July. Hey, number 20, starting the countdown, the founding of Cleveland, Ohio. And yeah, this is my personal connection. Founding of Cleveland, Ohio, are you kidding me? This is going to be really important for the future of my family. So Cleveland is close to my heart. It was founded on July 22nd, 1796. No doubt a future episode. On that day, surveyors led by Moses Cleveland, and it was spelled, his last name is actually spelled Cleveland. Later on, believe it or not, they got rid of the A, and that is a story in itself. But they arrived here in this settlement, and they laid out plans for what would become the city. The settlement grew, obviously, into one of America's greatest industrial cities, and it helped fuel the nation's growth with steel, with oil, with John D. Rockefeller. It's really a foundational city for the history of our country. Number 19, July 17th, 1918. We will have a run here of, believe it or not, executions, famous people in history being killed, unfortunately. On this day, it was Tsar Nicholas II that was executed in the early morning hours. It's an unbelievable story. He was killed along with his wife and children and several loyal servants. He was the last emperor of Russia, and he was executed by the Bolshevik revolutionaries. Their death brought an end to more than 300 years of Romanov rule. The event symbolized a dramatic shift from Imperial Russia to the Communist Soviet Union. Number 18, July 2nd, 1881. This is really, for too many Americans, it's been lost to history. But our president, James Garfield, was shot in Washington, D.C. in a train station by Charles Guiteau. Although the bullet itself didn't immediately kill him, poor medical treatment led to infection, and Garfield died more than 2 months later. Really horrible. Number 17, July 6th, 1535. Sir Thomas More is killed. He refused to recognize King Henry VIII as the head of the Church of England. He was a respected lawyer, scholar, author, and he chose to stand by his beliefs, even though it cost him his life. Today, he is remembered as a symbol of conscience and integrity. Number 16, July 4th, 1826. Two founding fathers pass away on the same day. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, rivals during their life, but ended up having a respectful and great friendship. It's unbelievable that this coincidence happened. Here we are 50 years after the nation's founding, and believe it or not, 5 years later, in 1831, another president and founding father, James Monroe, also passed away. We have so many letters that have survived to today that John Adams and Thomas Jefferson wrote back and forth to each other. It really is one of the most famous friendships / rivalries that we've ever had in the history of our country. And to think that they passed away on the 50th anniversary, just so amazing. Number 15, a lot of people in my generation will remember this. It was July 27th, 1996. During the Summer Olympics in Atlanta, a bomb exploded in Centennial Olympic Park. 2 people were killed, more than 100 were injured, and what had been a worldwide celebration suddenly became a scene of fear and confusions. The games continued, but the tragedy reminded everyone that even moments meant to unite people can be threatened by violence. It is an amazing story as to what happened horribly on that day. And we've got too many bad news events. We're continuing here at number 14, Chappaquiddick. Again, earlier generation, I was only 7 years old, but you knew this if you were alive during this time period. It shattered the image of Camelot. July 18th, 1969, Senator Ted Kennedy drove his car off a bridge in Chappaquiddick Island in Massachusetts. His passenger, Mary Jo Kopechne, drowned, and Kennedy waited until the next morning to report the accident. The incident became one of the most controversial political scandals really in American history. And like I said, it permanently affected Ted Kennedy's presidential ambitions. He, before this incident, was considered the heir apparent to the Kennedy legend, the Kennedy family, with John F. Kennedy, his older brother, being president, passing away, and certainly prior to that, his other brother, Robert F. Kennedy, tragically being killed. Number 13, a little bit more of a celebration, but still based on something horrible that had been happening. Live Aid. July 13th, 1985, millions of people around the world watched it as a pair of massive benefit concerts that were held in London and Philadelphia. They featured some of the biggest musical stars of the time. The concerts raised enormous sums of money for famine relief in Ethiopia. It showed how music could bring the world together for a great humanitarian cause. Again, if you were alive during that time, in my case, I had just graduated college. I remember seeing it on The TV at my in-laws' house, Mom and Dad Del Grande, sitting there in the basement, and it was must-see TV. So many people were glued to the TV. You had the reunion of Led Zeppelin. That was a big moment. You had the iconic performance of Queen and Freddie Mercury. So many different acts took place, and you just remembered where you were, no doubts. Number 12, the Battle of San Juan Hill, July 1st, 1898. This is definitely a future episode. It was one of the most famous battles of the Spanish-American War, and it took place at this hill in Cuba. It made Teddy Roosevelt a worldwide famous, iconic figure. It was him and his volunteer cavalry, the Rough Riders, and they helped capture the heights. The victory certainly propelled Roosevelt towards the presidency and marked America's emergence really as a world power. Number 11, Amelia Earhart disappears. It was July 2nd, 1937. She disappeared over the Pacific Ocean. She was trying to attempt to fly around the world despite one of the largest search efforts in history. We still have not found her. We still are looking for her. It is no doubt, as of the recording of this episode, one of aviation's greatest mysteries, but you could argue one of the greatest mysteries that still has not been solved. Where is she? Number 10, the Trinity test. If you don't know about this, you need to know about this. July 16th, 1945, before dawn, scientists in the New Mexico desert detonated the world's first atomic bomb, known as this Trinity test. The explosion marked the beginning of the nuclear age and forever changed warfare, science, and international politics. Less than a month later, atomic bombs would be dropped on Japan, ending World War II. Number 9, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 on July 2nd was signed. President Lyndon Johnson spearheaded this and signed it into law, certainly along with Martin Luther King Jr. It outlawed segregation in public places and prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It stands as one of the most important civil rights laws in American history. Number 8, the Hamilton-Aaron Burr duel. Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr fought and dueled on this day, July 11th, 1804. And yes, Alexander Hamilton, one of our founding fathers, passed away. He met Aaron Burr right there across the Hudson River in Weehawken, New Jersey. Burr shot, mortally wounded Hamilton, and the duel just really ended one brilliant life and really remains one of the most dramatic, horrible, crazy episodes in American political history. No doubts a future episode as well. Alexander Hamilton passed away much too young. Number 7, the storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789. An angry crowd in Paris stormed this Bastille prison on this day. Although only a handful of prisoners were inside, the fortress represented royal power and oppression. Its fall became the defining symbol of the French Revolution and is still celebrated every year as Bastille Day. Number 6. The Battle of Britain began on July 10, 1940. Nazi Germany began the air campaign that became known as this Battle of Britain. For months, the Royal Air Force defended Britain against relentless bombing by the Germans. Britain's victory prevented a German invasion and marked Adolf Hitler's first military defeat of World War II. Amazing, fantastic that Britain survived. Now we're going into the top 5, and I've done this throughout my episodes on famous moments with each month. Some moments are horrible, and how can you say that one moment can be the best, right? So, I'm making an exception. For July, and you'll understand why. So in no particular order, the top 5 moments in July: Seneca Falls. The convention begins on July 19th, 1848. It was the first women's right convention in the U.S. and up near the Finger Lakes of New York. It was organized by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Please go back to my episode on her. She has an unbelievable life story. It ended up producing this declaration. They call it the Declaration of Sentiments. And it demanded equal rights for women, including the right to vote. It began the beginning of organized women's suffrage movement in America. And if you're going to remember anything about Elizabeth Cady Stanton and what brought her to this convention and what made her continue to advocate for women, it was because her older brother had passed away, and sitting in her father's lap, her father whispered to her, "Elizabeth, I wish you were a boy." Talk about a seminal moment in the history of our country, and it all began with that whisper. How can people believe that something like this should be a reality? She knew in that moment, yes, that she could never live up to who she would be as a woman, and she decided to make it her life's mission to say, yes, women were just as important as men. Number 4, World War I begins on July 28, 1914. Austria-Hungary declare war on Serbia, and it set off a chain reaction of alliances that plunged Europe into World War I. What many people expected to be a short conflict instead became one of the deadliest wars in history. By the time it ended 4 years later, unfortunately, millions of lives have been lost, and the modern world had been forever changed. The next, if you want to call it number 3, but the next event certainly was horrific. It's July 1st through July 3rd, 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg. Like I said, it began on that day, and then on July 3rd, you had Pickett's Charge, 3 days of brutal fighting in the United States Civil War. The Union Army in the North turned back. General Robert E. Lee's invasion of the North. He was the general of the South, and many historians consider Gettysburg the turning point of this horrible war between the North and the South. And number 2, hey, talk about a moment in time. If you were alive, you remember this. Man walks on the moon. Humanity walks on the moon. July 20th, 1969. Yes, I was only 7, but I do remember it sitting in front of the TV down in my basement there in Poughkeepsie, New York. Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon and spoke those unforgettable words. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Millions watched as Apollo 11 accomplished what once had seemed impossible. John F. Kennedy had said, yes, we will go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. talk about one of humanity's greatest achievements, no doubt about it. It's funny. I mean, I'd say it's funny, but very often I'll say, why can't we do this or we can do that? Simple things in life here in the episode going out in 2026. Hey, I'll say, why can't I get this insurance claim figured out? It's a simple process, right? If we can land a man on the moon, why can't this company do this or that? It's interesting. And finally, yes, number one, you know what it is, the Declaration of Independence. Happy birthday, United States of America. 250 years on this day that this podcast is being released. Well, it happened on July 4th, 1776. It was when the Second Continental Congress adopted this declaration. It was written in Philadelphia, and it was written by Thomas Jefferson. It announced that these 13 American colonies were no longer subjects of Great Britain, but free and independent states. All these years later, these ideals of liberty, equality, and self-government continue to inspire people around the world. Friends, thanks for taking this journey, learning all about the top 20 moments in July. Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group. We have a YouTube channel. Check out the links in the podcast notes. Hit that plus button to subscribe to the podcast. We're getting episodes out now every 2 days, every day. Hey, love the reviews. Love the ratings on Apple Podcasts, any podcast platform of your choice. Always love any referrals to friends, family, neighbors, you name it. It's family friendly for both kids and adults. Until next time, have fun and keep learning.